great King Nimrod had 20 bodyguards protecting his royal bedroom as he slept. Not a snake or a fly get into that room to disturb the king. But not even 1,000,000 bodyguards could capture a bad dream. And such a dream slipped into the heart of great King Nimrod that night. In this hazy dream, he saw himself standing on a stone mountain surrounded by a valley of soldiers. Their gleaming weapons would be seen from one horizon to the next. But from this dream mountain, the king could see someone approaching. And it was a fat little baby boy. And in the baby's hand, there was a little perfect white egg. He looked up towards the king, cooed a few times, then threw the egg. It flew over the pointed tips of the warriors' swords and hit the king smack dab right on the head. From the broken egg flowed water. Not a drop, not a dribble, not a stream, and not a river, but an ocean spewed forth from that broken egg, and the gushing water drowned every struggling soldier in the valley. Then the water flowed back up the mountain, and every drop returned into the egg. Only the king and the baby survived this flood. Then the broken egg broke again, and from it came a red chicken, which jumped out of the king's head and plucked out his hairs one by one until he was totally bald. Covered with sweat, he awoke from his dream. He screamed for his wise men and demanded an explanation concerning this bizarre dream. What did it mean? The wise men scratched their beards, nodded their heads, and this was their reply. "Oh, mighty king, this terrible dream tells us that a certain baby boy will soon be born in your kingdom. The awesome power and strength of this boy will soon destroy your empire." "What shall I do?" whined the king. His advisors told him, "Listen, O great one. Build a huge house and force all pregnant women to live there. If they give birth to a girl, give them a barrel of golden jewelry. And if the child is a boy, then it shall be killed. And in this way, no male children will ever be born in this kingdom." And so that was done, exactly as the wise men had advised. But there was one woman by the name of Entalai who refused to act like the slave of a king. So for 9 months she hid her growing belly, and when it came time for her to give birth, she struggled all by herself to a hidden mountain cave. There, on a sheepskin blanket, she gave birth to a dazzling little boy. He shone like the sun, and his brilliance filled the room with a bright golden light. But Entalai was very young herself, and very confused. Should she stay here in this barren wilderness for the rest of her life like a thief to protect her son? Or should she go back to the comforts of her life in the city? Somewhere in her mind, she knew this baby would be protected. So confused and frightened, she left her baby there by himself in the hidden mountain cave. And she was right. The baby was protected. An angel by the name of Gabriel flew into the cave and cared for the baby. For the baby, he called him Abram, and was soon later changed to Abraham. To satisfy Abraham's hunger, the angel made milk flow from the baby's little finger. So for 10 days, the baby lay on the sheepskin blanket, sucked his milky finger, and cooed with delight and comfort. His life was an amazing miracle. At 11 days, he could speak and sing. At 12 days, he could run around the cave and climb the mountains like a goat. This boy grew to be a strong and handsome young man. It seemed the earth herself was his mother. His life was his teachings. And people came from far and near just to be close to him. But Nimrod, the evil king, had spies even in the wilderness, and they pointed to Abraham as a threat to the kingdom. And within minutes, Abraham was captured and thrown into prison. For a year, he was given no food and no water. After a year, a guard went to collect Abraham's bones and to present them to the king on a silver tray. But he found Abraham in perfect and radiant health. He grabbed Abraham and showed him to King Nimrod. The surprised king orders his executioners to him immediately to cut off the prisoner's head. His head was laid on the chopping block. The blood-stained blade lifted high into the gray sky, and when it came down onto Abraham's neck, the axe broke into 10,000 pieces. Nimrod again was amazed, but he was not finished. He had a fire belt that was so hot the sun would have to shield its face. 10 soldiers grabbed Abraham and threw him into the fire. For moments he stood there, eyes closed, his knees trembling in the quivering flames. Then out of the crowd stepped a young woman. Unhesitatingly, she stepped into the fire, grabbed Abraham's hands, and she smiled. And the fire died, as if it had never been. And the wood that had been put out for the fire, they burst forth into trees, and the aroma of ripe fruit filled the air. Nimrod and his soldiers stepped back in awe as this remarkable couple walked away to freedom. They lived through Sarah, the woman. Her name was Sara. She was also called Isha, or the seer. In some ways, she was more powerful than Abraham. She could see into the past and future. She was so beautiful that kings and great heroes trembled before her. And when she first laid eyes on Abraham, she knew that this was to be her husband. And so it was that the two of them became married. They lived through times of plenty, they lived through times of war, through drought and famine, through health and prosperity, and through all that, they had each other. These two grew to be very old. Abraham, he was so old that they say that when he burnt, dust came out. And Sarah was so ancient that her skin looked like the cracked side of a dried riverbed. They both loved their life. But there was a scene of sadness, too, but they never had any children. Abraham was an astrologer, and Sarah was a seer, and it was clear to both of them that they would never be parents. Then, one dangerously hot day, 3 travelers came to their goatskin tent. The 3 were angels, disguised as merchants. Abraham washed their feet, and Sarah fixed them a meal to eat. When the 3 travelers were about to depart, one of them said, "Abraham, you're a good man, and I'm going to share a little secret with you. Sarah, she'll soon be pregnant, and this time next year, you'll have a wild little boy running around your tent." Well, Abraham's toothless mouth fell open, and Sarah turned her bent back and laughed. "I'm 91 years old," she said, smiled to herself. "Abraham is 101. This is a traveling comedian we just had lunch with." That night, Abraham spoke to the Almighty Spirit. "Yes, it's true," said the Spirit. "Sarah will give birth to a son. But I've read the future of the stars, and I know that that's not going to happen, protested Abraham. Abraham, said the spirit, you are a prophet, not an astrologer. And so just for a second, he was carried past the stars to a mysterious place where he could see the future, the past, history from start to finish. And he could see a child destined to their life. Could you imagine the surprise of Abraham and Sarah's friends and neighbors when Sara, the 91-year-old lady, became pregnant? Look at her, they yelled. Impossible, they screamed. But it was true. And a strange transformation came over the old couple as Sarah's belly grew bigger and rounder. These two became younger. Abraham's bald head sprouted thick curly hair. Sarah's wrinkles smoothed out. And she was it made her so gorgeous that the moon herself was jealous. In 7 months, Sara gave birth to a little boy. The whole crowd rejoiced. They hugged each other by the waist. Abraham brought the baby out into the night sky for the crowd to gaze at. The baby smiled and laughed as he gazed into his father's face. So for him they chose the name Yitzhak, or he who laughs. Other women gave her their babies, and she nursed 500 babies that night, and still was overflowing with sweet milk. Each baby that drank from her that night grew to be strong, open-hearted people who lived to be more than 100 years old. And they looked up to Sara as their second mother. Could you imagine their great family, their goatskin tent? Could you imagine the gray sky above them? Can you imagine their stepsons and daughters as they run around? Can you see a world where 91-year-old ladies give birth, where babies can speak, where huge birds feed their chicks on elephants, and kings and heroes are defeated by children? Well, once a world first existed, whenever we tell ourselves these ancient Hebrew myths, and let's